Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Thank you very much for taking a little bit of your time and spending it here with us on NACTV. I'm Eoin Devereux, your host for the Story Behind the Stories, joined this week by Casper Wehrhahn. Casper, good to have you here this week to run us through so many of the interesting little stories you were able to track down this week.
Yeah, good to be here. And well, as you alluded to, we have a very full paper this week. It really filled up easily this week. We had a lot of stuff coming through, things that we are working on, and then of course we had some submissions as well that I'm eager to get to.
That's right, most definitely. Sometimes we're able to chase some things down, and sometimes things just fall right into our lap. This is one of those stories we're very glad that you, our loyal viewers, leaned in and let us know what's what I've got going on, because these are the types of feature stories, human interest type stories that a community newspaper just can really dig its teeth into. And Casper, you were able to get this one as well about a very special celebration.
Yes, we have a 100th birthday here in Neepawa, just passed, I believe, as we were going to print more or less, because it was on February 27th there. But Joe Dutko, who has lived here for almost 8 years, it'll be 8 years come, I believe it was June of this year. Well, he's 100 now. And so his daughter and son-in-law, who his son-in-law also happens to be named Joe, came into the office here and was like, hey, if you're interested, we'd like to do a little bit of something to surprise Dad, surprise Joe, and get something in the paper. And this is something that we do on occasion. Someone comes forward with a 100th birthday story like this. So I sat down with them, talked for a few minutes with them about their dad and some of the experiences that he's had, a little bit about him. And it really was an interesting story to listen to. And I mean, I'm sure there was a lot more they could have said, but you only have so much space in a paper. And yeah, it was just great getting to know him a bit more. We have a good history here, sharing a little bit of the details of his life in there, and some pretty fascinating stuff. I mean, he grew up in Polonia district, inherited his aunt and uncle's farm, and then built onto it himself. Like every single building that was on there, made by his own hands, which is quite the feat.
What's interesting as well, and very appreciative that the daughter and the son-in-law were able to do this, they brought in such an array of pictures, which really does illustrate sort of the accomplishments and the intriguing sort of things that have gone on with Joe over the years. When we do stories like this, almost every story, in actuality, we're going in with a blank slate. We don't know the background. We don't know a lot of the information. Sometimes it's a story we return to. Sometimes it's a story that we repeat on a yearly basis. But these types of things, which are fresh in our perspectives, are really an opportunity to just sort of delve deep and to go in and to discover it just the same way you get to discover it when you pick up a copy of the Banner Press and read it for yourself. It's so interesting, though. 100 years. And just before we went on the program here, Casper, oh God, this one's going to make my back hurt. It just occurred to me because, again, for those of you that don't know, despite the way I act, I am 50 years old. So I'm halfway there. And I've had a lot of trials, tribulations, a lot of experiences, and a lot of interesting things that have come and gone through my years. And I have only sort of hit the midway point of what Joe was able to discover through his life, through his experience. I can't even imagine, I can't even envision all the experiences he went through that sort of, hopefully, maybe I'll have the opportunity to experience myself. So congratulations, most definitely, to Joe and to the family, to be able to be together and to be able to celebrate a centennial such as this.
Definitely, and I mean, this wasn't included in the story, but the three of us, while we were sitting down there and talking, just kind of got discussing, you know, the things, aside from what they shared, personally for like his experiences, things that he would have seen throughout his life, like the birth of the internet and man landing on the moon. So it was a whole array of things, and I'm sure a lot more that we didn't even touch on in our conversation that he saw, in addition to the experiences that I was able to get in the paper here from his life growing up in the area. So it was a really fascinating conversation to have, and very, very thankful to be able to share Joe Dutko's story a little bit and congratulate him on this occasion.
It's the interesting thing. You bring up that point of all the experiences he was able to live through, because in 1924, again, the concept of, not even the concept of television, not even the concept of the internet, the concept of radio was a brand new endeavor. Even though it was starting to develop in the United States and there were more and more pockets, in Canada it was not nearly to the same degree, the same level. So just envision and imagine that. Imagine what was just created, or even something that was just sort of established when you were born. And just imagine where it's going to be 50, 60, 70 years, 80 years. 80 years from now. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's quite something to think about for sure. And I mean, yeah, like with that sort of time frame as well, I mean, he lived through a lot of developments, as we've already kind of touched on, but one thing that kind of fascinated me as well is that just with that progression, with him as a person as well, he was very adaptable, is what I grabbed from this as well. I mean, with the progression of things, he was like, yep, I can use that. And he grasped it really easily. Like, never had a computer, never had anything like that, but GPS and a tractor, yeah. I got it. No problem.
It is so fascinating, this story. Hopefully you're going to take the opportunity and you're going to be able to read through it and to be able to celebrate just as we were able to celebrate as we were putting it on the pages. Now, always remember, you can get a physical copy of the Banner Press anywhere in Neepawa and the surrounding communities. If you're not able to get a physical representation of our newspaper, always remember that it will be going live online on mywestman.ca every Friday morning at 9 a.m. Central Time. So check it out there and share the experience, as it were. Speaking of experiences and other things that were on the go this week, it feels like this week's edition of the Banner Press was very crime-oriented, and we're going to delve into that to a degree here. If you are a loyal and consistent viewer of the story behind the stories, or if you're a loyal reader of the Banner Press, you know a story from a couple weeks ago about an alleged incident that occurred at one of our local businesses involving an attempted robbery and weapons. Well, it's alleged no more. We have confirmation from the RCMP that such an incident did occur. It involved two individuals who were brandishing weapons inside of a store. I think everybody in Neepawa sort of knows the story. They know the store. They know the business in question. RCMP didn't wish to share that at this time. And again, we don't want to sort of over-sensationalize these types of things. But it's one of those experiences where it's like, oh my. You don't think it can happen here, but in a way it's everywhere. I mean, just because we're in a small town doesn't mean that we're insulated or isolated from the remnants of crime. So
yeah, I mean, every community has its issues, and you know, if you've been here for a while, like you know that even though Neepawa is a smaller town in comparison to others, like stuff still happens here. We've still had things happen here to varying degrees of severity, of course, and hopefully few and far between, at least to my memory. I think they seem to be, but it's always a shame to hear things like this going down in the community, especially of this nature. I mean, that's dangerous activity, and you don't want anyone to get hurt, and you don't want you know, people in your community being, you know, on the perpetrator side of that either. Because I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't really know where to take that thought from there, but it's just sad to see.
Well, again, we don't want to spoil too much of it for you. We want you to be able to pick up a copy of the Banner Press and read it for yourself. There were 2 arrests that were made. one representing a Neepawa youth who cannot be named, and the other one a resident of Brandon, an adult who can be named. So, like I said, we're not going to give too much away. We hope that you check it out on this week's pages. You can find that story on page 2 of the Neepawa Banner Press, submitted by the RCMP. Very appreciative whenever the Spruce Plains RCMP are able to share these types of details with us, so we are able to share them with you. On that same page, this is unfortunate. It really is. It's a story we have talked about before, and it's a story we hoped we wouldn't have to talk about again. It's about vandalism in our community, most specifically the washrooms down at the flats. And Casper, you got the details on what happened.
Yeah. Well, the February long weekend was host to a lot of fun, of course, in various communities, Neepawa included. But unfortunately, over that weekend as well, the change rooms and washrooms at the flats did get vandalized again. That was discovered the Monday morning Monday evening, I think, when cleaning crews went to go and tidy things up and whatnot. Yeah, there was, stuff on the walls, inappropriate language, etc. And this isn't the first time, unfortunately. And each time this happens, the town needs to clean it up, paint things over, and that has a cost to it. And actually looking back in the archives while I was trying to do a little bit of background research on this, just to see what sort of incidents have occurred over the years, I think if I recall correctly, I think the facility originally opened in about 2012. And it's sort of been an issue since then. But the most recent incident prior to this one was about late October of last year. Similar sort of thing. And it's just really unfortunate that this sort of thing keeps happening, because this is a facility that is of benefit to the community and the people in it.
Yep.
I mean, it provides, in the winter, it provides a warm place, put on skates or whatever. And it would be a shame if that had to get taken away because of a few bad eggs. Yeah.
And again, for a period of time, it was taken away. They decided they had to close it to the general public because it was an ongoing occurrence. They opened it up for the special occasion that was Louis Riel Day and the celebrations, the winter festival that went on down in the flats. It was very well attended and it was very well received. And then to see something like that happen the next day, it's just really, it's an unfortunate circumstance. But hopefully that's something that, can be put to rest ultimately. So again, you can find that story on page 2 of this week's edition of the newspaper. Just one more bit in our crime beat section, as it were, for the Banner Press for the week of March 1st, 2024. This is a release that came out, and we were able to sort of put something together and share it with you. You most likely may have seen it on the evening news because the release came out a day after we went to print for last week's edition, but we still wanted to share it with you if you're not a consistent viewer of the television news, or if you don't listen to the radio anymore. And really, why would you? I mean, Brandon doesn't do news on the radio anymore. They really don't, And
I mean, I'm not a huge radio listener for a few reasons, but also just the music these days. Yeah. I don't know.
You kids and your rock and or roll, your disco.
I also just find that a lot of the same stuff gets overplayed on and on, so it's just like, shut off. Yeah. But back to the news.
but again, this is something, if you haven't seen it yet, you can find all the details in this week's edition of the newspaper. Charges have been laid into a theft related to the RM of North Cyprus. And all of this, always remember, these are alleged right now what occurred. The incident that may or may not have occurred is alleged. This is the type of stuff that needs to be proven in a court of law. So always remember, and that's the thing with the internet sometimes, innocent until proven guilty doesn't exist anymore on the internet. Maybe it didn't exist at all, but let's let the process play out. Having said that, we as representatives of the media do have the right to inform you of what's been going on. And a little late in February, 2 incidents of theft were considered connected, and they had to do with $30,000 worth of money taken from the coffers, as it were, from the the Carberry Curling Club, in regards to connected to the RM of North Cyprus Langford. Now, the alleged suspect, and again, innocent until proven guilty, but we can share this. It was shared in the RCMP report. 36-year-old Trish Fraser has been charged with theft over $5,000, and she will be appearing in court in Brandon in April. So there are certain allegations about money that was taken from certain funds where it wasn't supposed to be taken out of. Like, this is stuff that is very unfortunate to hear. I don't understand to a degree as well the mindset of that, because something like that, to that degree, will always be discovered eventually. At least I think it will always be discovered eventually.
Right. Well, at the very least, you hope so, if it's of that magnitude. But yeah, I mean, and especially for two different organizations to be involved as victims in this as well. Yeah. I mean, the curling club, the RM, both of them provide services to the community in the area. Different services, mind you, but still services, recreation, whole different things there. And I mean, it's sad to see them targeted in something like this. Sad to see anyone targeted in theft or any sort of crime. So I hope whatever happens, it gets sorted out, and yeah, we'll go from there, I suppose. And again, we're going to discover more and more of the details as this does proceed. Most likely it is a story we are going to continue to be covering over the year. And again, it's one of those things of in and around $30,000 doesn't disappear all at once. Maybe it's a case of little at a time, and you know, that adds up pretty darn quickly. Oh, so, yes, yeah. Yep. So you can find that story. It is on page 6 of this week's edition. A lot of crime, maybe a lot of punishment. We'll find out in the weeks and months ahead. Let's get back to a few more positive aspects, though. As a community paper, we always like to be able to share the happy times and the good times. And this is one for the community of Gladstone. It was some details that were shared with, I believe it was Ken Waddell, who passed it on to me, but I was a little busy with a couple other things, passed it on to Casper, about a new business in an old familiar place in Gladstone. Yeah, very glad to hear about this happening down by our neighbors there in Gladstone. New restaurant has freshly opened. I believe the first opening day was just a couple weeks ago, towards the start of the month. Yeah, February 7th, actually. Opened on 21 Logie Street. It's called Gladstone Roadhouse. And I spoke with the owner, Chris Frere, a little bit about the restaurant there and what they do. And it sounds like a great place to stop. Yeah. I mean, it's often said you can't beat a home-cooked meal. Yeah. And that's sort of what they're going for at this restaurant. Is it's home-style cooking. So it's not fast food. Might be a little bit slower than fast food because that's not what they're going for here. Oh, fast food ain't that fast anymore. That is true, actually. If we're being honest, yeah. Yeah, you get that home-style cooking, which sounds amazing just from hearing him talk about it. To kind of want to check it out myself sometime if I happen to be up there in Gladstone at some point. And just a little bit about the background of, you know, how this came to be. And some of the people that are supporting him, like Gerald. I apologize if I mispronounced the last name. It's been a while since I heard it, but Gerald Bisson, I think, who once ran the Gladstone Hotel there a few years ago, and is very well known for his pizza making capabilities. Apparently, Gerald is making pizzas there, and has also helped Chris spearhead and run this facility. So very, very thankful to have this story, and excited to see some new stuff popping up in Gladstone. And I mean, Chris isn't originally from Gladstone, but has spent time there for work and whatnot for the past like 19 years. And it sounds like he's planning in the long term to move to the community and make a permanent home there. So it's great to see some new additions to the community in a few different ways.
That's very nice to see, most definitely. So you can find that story in this week's copy of the newspaper. And hopefully, if you're passing through Gladstone, you'll be able to sort of check it out for yourself. All right, let's get into some number crunching right about now. We're just going to quickly delve into a story that came in late, just as we were about to go to print. Fortunately, representatives with the Beautiful Plains School Division were able to get the information sent to me before we went to print, and I was able to write up a story about the school division's upcoming budget for 2024-2025. These are the types of things that affect you if you're a homeowner, if you're a parent, if you're within the communities of Beautiful Plains. This is something you should take a quick look at and educate yourself on. The budget this year is going to be going up a little bit. Now let me see. I've got to take the glasses off to get a closer look at this. It's going to be going up to $28.8 million is the budget for Beautiful Plains School Division. That's an increase of $2.25 million, about 8.5%. With the cost of everything going up, a portion of it does have to do with inflation year over year, but another big portion of it is the enrollment. The enrollment for the division, specifically here in Neepawa, continues to rise at a very steady rate. So they have to be able to cover that as well. What does that mean for you if you're a homeowner, if you're a property owner in Beautiful Plains? Well, what it breaks down to is that, what it comes down to is for every $100,000 of value on your home, it's going to mean you're going to be paying a little extra. You're going to be paying $23 extra towards the school division. Now, nowadays, $23, again, personally, I'd rather keep the $23 in my pocket as well. But $23 right now is a combo at McDonald's or Burger King. That's what that is.
Yeah.
So if we want to have a good, structured, and solid education system, it's something we all got to chip in on. You can also find the details in terms of commercial property owners, in terms of farm properties. Those are different numbers. I'm not going to give them away to you here. That's why you got to pick up a copy of the paper and read it for yourself. But it's one of those things of Beautiful Plains is one of the fastest developing school divisions in all of Manitoba. A good portion of it is covered through provincial funding, but they do have to get a portion of it as well from us. So that's just the reality of it. And hopefully we're going to continue to have a system that's going to be able to work for the next generations. I don't know. It's been so long since I've been in school. Class of 1990. Class of 1991. So, you know, that's a while since I've been inside a high school there. So, you know.
Well,
oh, God, my knees hurt now.
2015.
That's coming up.
I'm sorry.
That's coming up. Well, yeah, but I can make you feel bad though. That's coming up on a decade.
Yep.
10 years coming up.
Oh, it sure is.
That stupid passage of time. But again, that's what we've got for this week on that. Just before we go, though, we want to have a little more fun here with a couple stories. We got this one. I got some information on Buster McPherson. He's a young person who has taken up a new sport. Neepawa resident has really gotten into racquetball in the last 6 or 7 months and has taken it to a whole new level already. He recently took part in the Keystone Classic, which is about a 48-year-old tournament that is played each and every year in Winnipeg and features racquetball players of all ages, all demographics, all sort of structural status in terms of their ability. And he was able to take part in it this year. He did well, considering he's only been at it about 7 months. He had 2 wins, 2 losses in his efforts, and he's really taken to the sport. He's really sort of started to enjoy it, because it's interesting. We don't have any racquetball places in Neepawa in which you're able to practice, in which you're able to play the game. He and his family have to go to Brandon a couple times a week in order to practice, go to the squash club, and to learn a little bit more about the game. But if it's something you're passionate about, if it's something you enjoy and continue to get enjoyment from, go for it. I mean, it would be wonderful to have something like that in Neepawa, but since we don't, that hasn't stopped him. That hasn't sort of curtailed his desire to learn about the sport and to get better at it. So congratulations to Buster on competing. He plans on competing in several more tournaments heading into the spring. So I very much hope we'll be able to sort of keep in check on that and learn a little bit more about his experience as he goes forward. Now, you can find that on the sports page of this week's edition of the paper, as well as so many other stories about the Tigers high school hockey team, about the Titans' recent success. They've been really able to turn things around. And from the Tiger Hills Hockey League playoffs, Minnedosa and Gladstone are having a heck of a good series out there. We try and cover as many outlying communities as we can, so I'm hoping sooner rather than later I'll be able to go out to one of those communities myself and to pick up a game or two. But before we go, just one little bit of housekeeping to take care of. It is in regard to the Neepawa Golf and Country Club. They recently had their annual general meeting, and I am very happy to say I'm able to share some good news, consistent all-around good news about the overall health of the country club. Everything is moving in the right direction. They were able to make a profit last year. They were able to reinvest into their facility with some new structures and some new golf carts that are actually going to be. They've purchased some brand new golf carts for this year for those who play the game. And this year was actually the 80th annual general meeting they had. So to see that type of success, because much like many other things in and around Neepawa, it is volunteer organized, volunteer run, and volunteer funded for the most part. So much like the curling club, much like the Yellowhead Center, these types of things. So wonderful to be able to share that success. If you want to learn about how things are playing out for the Golf and Country Club, you see what I did there. Subtle. But it's wonderful to see. You can find that story. It's on page 14 of this week's edition of the Banner Press. There's so much more we could talk to you about, but there's only so much time in a half hour, well, 30 minutes really, that we can do that. That's why you got to pick up a copy of the paper. We weren't able to talk about Arden Curling Bonspiel. We weren't able to talk about our special Everything for Your Farm feature. We weren't able to go in depth on Ken's column, Looking Back, Victoria Quilts, Gladstone Theatre putting something together for a local cause. That's why, again, you got to pick up a copy of the paper. So, again, Casper, always appreciate you sort of coming on here and walking us through how things have been going in and around Neepawa.
Absolutely. Good to be here, and I'm looking forward to another one. Hopefully we'll have some more good stories to share with all of you.
And we always look forward to you sort of taking your time and spending it right here with us on NAC TV. Always check your local listings for some of the new and interesting things that are going on in Neepawa and the surrounding area. If we're not covering it in the newspaper, I guarantee you they've probably got video of it right here on NAC TV. So again, for Casper, I'm Owen, and we always appreciate you tuning in and watching the story behind the stories. Have yourself another fantastic week.